Hey guys, welcome back to the Casual Athlete. You got Biz here. Today we're going to go through a pretty unique video where I talk about team building strategy. Now, this particular team building strategy is what everyone knows as guns and cows. And this is pretty much the strategy I use most years. I've used this strategy to a lot of success. I think the 3 or 4 times I've finished in the top 50, I've been using guns and cows. I had a few years where I used a more kind of Moneyball style, where I tried to pick players who are underpriced, overpriced, regardless of how expensive they were, and it didn't really go too well for me. I kind of, for a few years, fell out of the top 1,000, which was, obviously not the goal. And then last year, I decided to go back to guns and cows, and it worked pretty well. I think I finished about 500 for the year, which is below the target of top 100 I set myself every year. But in saying that, I think it worked pretty well. I think the first 6-7 rounds, I was in the top 20, top 30. And then I kind of ruined my team when I brought Nico Hines in when he got back on the field, and it kind of went downhill from there. But overall, I was very happy with the strategy. So what is guns and cows? Guns and cows is essentially cash cows who are really cheap, below 400K. And then your guns, say like 750K top players in each spot. Now, why is it effective? Well, here's why I don't like mid-ranges in that 400, 600K mark. Now, here's this for an example. Imagine you've got someone who's priced 500K and someone who's priced 300K. They're both scoring 10 points more than their break even each week. With a 500K player, you've got a lot more risks. Like, say, for example, they're priced at 35 and they have to keep hitting 45 every week to make the money you want. Whereas a 250K player or 300K player only needs to hit 25 every week to hit that milestone. I've seen with guys before who could, like take Helam Lukey last year, for example. He'll get a 60 and then the 13. Now, at that mid-range price, all it takes is a low score, whether from just a bad fantasy performance, a sin bin, a send-off, your team getting out to a lead and you getting rested, and that kills your money-making ability. And it's also slower increments. Whereas for a cash cow, 250, 300K, the risk of you hitting below 25, if you're getting the minutes, is a lot lower. And you could, like, for example, a winger, like Khan Pereira last year, you could fall over for 2 tries doing nothing and score 35 and you're making 50K. So you can have that, and then you have a lot more money to work with to get the top guns, like the proven guys where there's no risk. Like, for example, if you're putting money into Payne Haas, Nathan Cleary, Nico Hines, you're getting a top-tier player. There's no risk there other than injury risk. But if you get guys like mid-rangers, like, Sean Lane, Blore, Dylan Lucas, there's not as much job security. Their minutes might not be there. They have years where they go up and down. One year they might give you a 40 average. One year might give you 50 average. So you don't get that consistency. So I'm going with the guns and cows approach, and I'm actually going to build my team from scratch as if we were using my strategy. But before I do that, one thing I want to just say is, if you haven't done so already, please join the Casual Athlete Overall League. As you can see, we've already got almost 1,500 players in this league, and it's gonna be great just to see how everyone's tracking. We're going to do a weekly review of like the best performing teams, whoever they are, from each week as the season goes on. And we're also going to have a lot of like great prizes for the overall winners, etc. So please join. It's easy to do. Longy will put the code in this description, but you can see here the league pin to join is TZ6S3KHE. You can see it on my screen. So if you want to pause the video and join the league, please do so. Otherwise, let's get straight into team building. So I'm going to zoom in so I don't make the same mistake I did for my pod video. And I guess my face is covering a lot of players here. So let me try and move myself to the other side. So how do I build a team with a guns and cows approach? Now, this is counterintuitive. I know a lot of people say pick your best player first. I do the opposite for guns and cows. What I do is I select an interchange player. So what that means is it lets me filter for any potential position, because I try and fill my team by price. And what I do is I'll order it by, let's see, I think it's done now. So it's the cheapest players first. Now, why do I have the cheapest players first? I usually go and I load up my team with as many cows as possible. I see what positions are left, and then I fill up guns in those positions. So for the purposes of this video, I'm just going to use random names to show how it kind of works. So like, don't be, if I pick Zach Docker Clay, it's not because I think he's a great cow. I'm just going to show illustratively how the pricing in the system works. So in this case here, I'm kind of scrolling through. I'm seeing some guys. Yeah, none of these really pick my fancy. Keep going, keep going. Okay, Chevy Stewart. He's a potential fullback. I don't think he's going to go to the fullback spot, but again, I'm just using random names. So he's a base price guy. He's priced at 17. You can see his break even is 17 here. So he only needs like a 25 average to make a lot of money. So, you know, he's in my team. Okay. So that's how I'll throw them in there. Then I'll keep going. And I'll keep doing this with any potential guy here. Like, I'm just going to throw in random names, like I said. Ben Trebojevic, he could be starting. Chuck him in. He'll fill up my center spot. And then I keep doing this, right? Sam Hughes, I think he'll make the team. So he'll be there. And this is like just how I'm kind of picking a team. I think, to be honest, like, I'll get rid of, actually, I'll try and make this more realistic for people. I want to get rid of Chevy because I don't think he makes the team. I'll try and build this how I'd actually do it. So I'm scrolling along. Ethan Strange, I think he makes the team. He was the better half. He could get suspended, but he's there. So there I've got two really cheap centers. You know, I don't think Weeks makes the team. I don't think Kotrick makes the team. He might on the bench. Willison, obviously, let's have him. Let's have him at the edge for now. And by the way, I'm not going to talk through each of my picks here because we've done a lot of coverage on each of these players and why we think they're good. But if you're not sure why, like, post in the comments and I'll answer these questions. But you know, these are just cash cows who I think have value this year. Keeney, he'll get the fullback spot. Okay, cool. Keeney's there. I don't think Levi's there. I think Salmon is a great pick this year. I think he's going to be the starting lock. We'll get a good bench roll. We're just scrolling along. Who else is here? Can you all see my screen? Yeah, good. I'm just checking. Ali Latour, he was one I was big on, but I'm not anymore. Doesn't look like he'll make the team. Liam Henry, he didn't get a big role in the Wigan game, but I think he only needs 25 minutes to be value, so I'll throw him in there for now. And I'm kind of scrolling around. I don't like Taff. We covered him. I don't like any of these guys. There's not much going on here. I like Flanagan. I think he's a stable half who has enough work rate at 349K to be worth it. These guys, none of them really do it for me. As you can see, it's getting more expensive, so my interest is waning. None of these guys. And I might have accidentally skipped over someone that I'll have in my team, but I'm just trying not to make this video too long just to keep you guys interested. And of course, I'll do a team reveal after the team list, so you'll see my team. I'm not going to keep it hidden. Don't worry. Is there anyone here? Nope. Don't like any of these guys. I like Drew Hutchison. I think even though he's not the most exciting player, he does have a lot of fantasy upside from his work rate. I'm missing someone. I feel like Pierre Cora should be somewhere around here. How much was he again? Yeah, all these guys. I thought Pierre Cora was like 399K. Is he not here anymore? What have I done? Oh, spell his name right. It's 399K. Don't know why I didn't come up there. So Pierre Cora was there, going back to 399. I just remember he's a bit of a must-have for me if he's not injured. There's a Brendan Hands. I don't think he gets the spot, to be honest. I think Lussick gets it. I'm hoping it's Hands just because he's cheaper. But otherwise, we're kind of at the 400K mark. So this is the kind of area I skip over. I'll come back to it if I think there's any must-haves here. But I think the only must-have from this section is just the Eels hooker, just given that there's so few good hookers this year. And I'm not really interested in anyone at this price point other than them. So I'm going to pick Joey Lussick. Right. And you'll see here, so these are kind of all the cows plus Lussick. And these are all guys I want in my team. Like, you know, I think Sam, Hughes has a bit of a cash cow potential if he gets 30, 40 minutes. Same story as Henry. Willis and everyone knows. Salmon makes sense. Flanagan, Hutch have good roles this year potentially. Burbo, Strange, Keeney, Picora, they can all make a lot of money. So I think these guys are going to be those really cheap prices I want to fill out. So now I've got a lot more positions to fill. And now I'll go the other way where I will go to the top end. and fill in positions I really want. So as you can see here, fullbacks is a very dodgy position. Like I've only got one. It's not great. I think the other mid-ranger you can just plug in that is a gun priced low because of injury is Pappenhausen. I think he's pretty much a must-have just because of his pedigree and price. He's a mid-ranger, so right now the only two mid-rangers I have is Lussick and Pappenhausen, just because Lussick's shown he can average 50 if he gets the minutes. When he gets the 80-minute role, and Pappenhausen, we all know his fantasy pedigree, and for new players, Pappenhausen is traditionally like a 55, 60 guy when he's healthy. It might be a bit lower this year because he doesn't look as goals, but I think he's a great option. So they're really the two mid-rangers I'm interested in. So now I'm going to flip the script and go for the most expensive players because these are the guys who I know. Like you can see Hines, Cleary, Haas, Cherry Evans. Their weapons, they're so much better than the rest. But I'm a big Hines and Cleary guy, and I know I've got two halves here already, but Flanagan and Hutch, they're both not that secure. Hutch has Sexton breathing down his back, and Flanagan, look, he doesn't have that many people competing for the sixth spot, but he could also be not as good a fantasy scorer as we hoped. So, and then I also think that as you can see here, you've got Cleary and Hines who average like low mid 70s, and then there's like 10 points difference between the next person. So there's such a head start versus everyone else, and they're the two best captaincy options by far. So when Cleary has his buy or Hines has his buy, you just put the captain on another. So I think for me, Hines and Cleary, I'm definitely starting with them if they don't have any injury issues. So, as that kind of works, I'll sub out Flanagan and I'll sub out Hutchison. You can see here we're relying on two cheap mids, so we need some mids, right? So we need some expensive mids. So Haas is obviously the best mid. I think he's just going to be the same as every other year, 60, 65 average, bankable, a great option. He always starts the year pretty well. So he's there. And then I don't really like Henry and Hughes as my starting props. I think I'm willing to take enough of a risk to have one of them as my starting prop, but not two of them. So I need another mid. So Yo's obviously here. I liked Yo, but I think he's very expensive. I think given I've got Cleary and Hines, having Yo and Cleary on the bye in the same week is tough. But Yo is playing 80 minutes. He played 80 minutes in the World Club Challenge, so he's a great pick. But just given I want a lot more guns, I think I'm actually more willing to scroll down a bit. Hopgood's a good pick, I think, but riskier. DeBellin, not sure about his minutes. Tino, Fanua Blake, they're all good options. But the guy I like here is Cam Murray. He's priced at 57 or so, but we've all seen that he can be a 60, 65 guy when he gets the minutes. Last year, he had some injury disruptions, and Rabbits were poor last year. So I think he's going to have to play more minutes. And he definitely looked good in the trial game. So he's also a good-looking bloke, huh? But that's not why I have him. But, Murray could become one of the other dudes. But I think, look, I'm loving this. Like, look, you can already see this team. Like, it's bankable. I think I'll captain Cleary round one just as a bit of a pod. Hines. I might vice captain Cleary. And then I've got Haas and Murray who are captaincy options as well. So what's the next position I have to fill? So I've got my halves sorted. I've got four good halves. My edges look a bit shaky. I've got Salmon and Willison there. I think Piokora, if he starts, is good enough to be my starter. So I think I need an edge, but I'm not that crash hot on edges. Like I look at the edges this year and they're not that exciting. Like Hopgood, I think, has a minutes question. And then the next edge is kind of a 50s guy. Like there's no 60 guys here other than Hopgood. And I think David Fifita. This is kind of strange because I don't think all the players are coming up. Like where's David Fifita in this list? I've got edges. I might have filtered this weirdly, but whatever. I'm not interested in David Fifita anyway. So is it this? Okay, it's because I had that switch on. Available status. Fifita's injured. That's why Piokora didn't come up as well. So I bet a lot of you viewers were like, "Beers, you idiot! You've got the thing switched on that injured players don't rock up." That's my bad. Sorry. I've never had that turned on before. It was an accident. So yeah, edges I'm not that keen on. So I think with Salmon being available at edge and as a starting lock, I think I'm game enough to begin with him. And I might fill it in with a guy like Kane Bradley or Alec or whatever, whoever get like a edge cheapy role. And then I've also got Ben Trebojevic at the back in the centers, who is reasonably respectable, who hasn't got the best job security. He's got Schuster around, but I could also plug in Schuster if he gets the 80-minute roll down the track. So for edges, I'm happy with having Piokora, Salmon, and Willison covering. It's not the best, but when you do a guns and cows approach, it's a bit of a risky approach because you're loading with guns and you're relying on cows. Like it is what it is. It's a high risk, high reward strategy. So you got to make some sacrifices. The next position I'm looking at is hooker. Okay, so I can't just rely on Joey Lussick. He could, he's good, but he's not like you always need some backup. And I think the hookers are very lean this year. Like the cash cow is Danny Levi, but in the trial he played 20 minutes, didn't come on, and they've got Starling and Wolford. So don't really trust him. I think Robson looked the same as last year. He played 40 minutes for 23 points, on track for 48. I don't see him bouncing back to that 60 guy that he was in the past. Like, I'm not sure what's changed, but it's kind of like the Reed Marnie situation where his 60 average has fallen to like 45, 50, and Reed's just been stuck there. So I think Robson might be stuck there too. Just a gut feel. Like usually I don't kind of go back. So I think the only two options here are Grant or Cook. The interesting thing is people have been saying, Cook's a bit riskier. He might get more bench time. He's getting older. If you actually look at the last 5 games of last year, Cook, I don't think Harry played 80-minute games. Like, he actually got benched. He actually came up with interchange, and it might have just been giving him a rest after Origin leading into the finals. Like, he is a young bloke. Playing 80 minutes of hooker is difficult, so that could be the reason. But who knows? I think there's a little bit of risk in both that neither of them play 80 because at this price they need to be playing 80, right? But I'm going to go Harry Grant myself. He looked gone in the trial. He played 40-odd minutes and he scored 55-odd points with a good try as well. And he's another captaincy option. A lot of people have been saying, Biz, like you've got too many Origin players. Origin is like 10 weeks away. In 2.5 months of footy, the whole team can change. Like, why are you worried about what's 10 weeks away? If you avoid Origin, like if you're not getting Cleary and Grant because they're Origin players, but they're scoring 70, 80, by the time you get to Origin, you're already ranked like 50,000. Like, who cares? Like, there's no such thing as too much Origin players. Like, get that out of your head. There's too many guys from one team. That's definitely a threat with the one bye a week. But there's no, like, if you have every single player in Origin, just as long as you're planning ahead and you're trading them out, you're like, okay, I need to trade out 10 of them before round 12 or round 10 or whatever, then you got to start early. You trade them out 2 at a time. But don't let me deter you. Like, all the best players are Origin players. Like, if you look at the top guys like Cleary, potentially Hines, Cherry Evans, Haas, Harry Grant, like, these guys are studs. And if you want to skip them because they play Origin, like, good luck to you. Anyway, so that's that. I want to rearrange my team a bit so I can see who's startable. So I think Lussick is definitely good enough to play on the bench. Hutchison is definitely good enough to play on the bench. Flanagan's good enough to play on the bench. And I think one of Henry and Willison, definitely good enough to play on the bench. For 1.5 mil remaining, and I got to fill up 4 players. So that's pretty much cows, right? So I think when I look at this, I still need a fullback. So I've got to figure out my fullback situation. So I probably can't afford a gun here. I'd love to get a Tedesco, but I don't think it's going to work. I mean, let me try having Tommy Trbojevic. I like Tedesco more, but there's always more hype around Tom. Just because that one season where he averaged like 100, everyone's always high on Tom. But Tedesco's always been better than Tom Trbojevic in fantasy, except that 1 year. And he had a great back end of last year. So I've got Tommy Turbo there. I've got 889K for the last 3 players, so about 300K each. So it doesn't give me much. But in saying that, I don't think I need much because these guys are my reserves. So I think I want a center. I want a center because I don't have the best centers. And I want some fullbacks, I think, because I don't have any backup fullbacks. So what I'll do is here, okay, let's look at the trash centers. I don't think any of these guys are getting games. I don't think none of these guys are interesting. I mean, maybe Cottridge gets a game. He played pretty well. Let's just hypothetically say Cottridge makes a team. He'll be my backup. I think Talau won't get the spot. I think Garrick's the center, and Jason Polo is or Jason Polo, I think, is the winger. But Cottridge covers center and fullback. Here, I just like a guy I keep coming to is Bailey Simonson, just because I think he's definitely 5 points overpriced, just moving from wing to center. And then with the Eels looking good and an easy draw at the start, and dual position. I think he's pretty interesting. So look, this is not my final team, right? But just illustratively showing you how I build up a team. So here we've got, well, that's not going to work because I only have 155k left for my last player. So scrap that. Actually, I also, like, if you look back on my video where we cover having too many guys from the Vegas games, I think Trebojevic, Ben Trebojevic, Piacora, Haas, Murray, they're all getting locked out and Willison. So I'm actually going to swap out Tom. I think Tom's great, but he's only really had 1 year where he's averaged over 50. So I'm just actually I'm just going to put Bailey Simonson in here, and the reason for that is just he'll cover center and wing. So now I've got 2 guys that can cover center, 3 guys that can cover center, potentially with Kotrick, 4 guys that can cover center for 2 spots. I'm well covered there. In terms of fullbacks, I've got 3 fullbacks with a 4th in Kotrick, but I probably want 1 more winger just because 4 into 3, like if you've got 2 going down at any time, it's not the best. So I've got 808k. Look, I don't mind Rapana, to be honest. I think Rapana, he's a bit of a punt just because he averages about 50 at fullback. And there's not much job security. I know I posted a video about Rapana and people were like, Chris could get fullback. Hopoida could get fullback. Rapana's old. I think that's all right. That's a risk. But he also has a pedigree where he scores 50-odd points at fullback. But, illustratively, let's not have him. Let's have a different name that we haven't really talked about. I think who could be interesting is Blake Wilson could be interesting if dogs get better. Let's just say for now, scraping bottom of the barrel, aren't we? Centers and fullbacks this year is very difficult. Very difficult. Really no one here I like, to be honest. Maybe what I'll do is I'll spend up a bit. I've got 808k, so I've got 500k on a fullback. So who's at 500k? That could be interesting. But I'm just going to pick Rapana for now. I don't want to waste your guys' time. Just to kind of show how this team builds up. I think I've already expressed the guns and cows approach. I think it makes sense now. So here I'll just have Rapana as my starter, and then Simonson I'll just slot in for Strange. And then, look, I think out of these guys, I think the back end of my selections, like Kotrick, Strange, Rapana, Simonson, like they're the ones I'm not sure on. I'm hoping Team List Tuesday has some surprises there and some unexpected cashies. And then, I've got 321k left. I think I've got decent coverage at most spots, but, what I'll do is I think I'll see what I've got left available to me and who's the best player left at 321k. And the one thing I will say, guys, like a lot of people have been sending in teams to rate, and Longy rates everyone's teams, and a lot of questions. Don't leave money in the bank. The most money you should leave in the bank is 50k. Like anything more than that, you're just leaving points on the table. Do not leave 200, 300, 400k in the bank. Spend all your money. I like to think that if I land on 0, it's fate. But like if you got 5, 10, 15k left, it's fine. I think up to 50 is okay. It gives you a bit of flexibility next week. But I want to maximize my points from the get-go. It helped me last year. I came out of the gate in the top 20 after 2 weeks. And the Guns and Cows approach really lets you do that because it lets you stack up on guys. Like, for example, Hines, Cleary, Grant, Haas, these are all guys who can score 100 any given day. So if they come out of the gates hot, you can be really good. And even if they give you just the average of 60, 70, it's still very good. So, I think, look, it doesn't really matter to me who I pick here. Like, this is obviously not my real team, but whatever. I'll pick Tommy Talau, just to annoy Longy. Our boy Tommy, cover center and fullback. Hey, look, in this team, and if Turbo's firing and Talau's on the wing and he's just catching the ball, putting it down, he could be decent, but I don't think he gets the spot. But anyway, so let's quickly review the team. So your hookers, you've got Harry Grant and Lussick. I think that's beautiful. Harry Grant's a 60 guy, and Lussick or Hans, whoever gets the spot, will be a 40, 45 guy. So I think I'm strong at hooker. I don't have a weakness there. I think that's going to be like a very common combination, like Grant plus the Eels hooker. I think that's going to be probably the most common combination. And then in the mids, you've got Haas and Murray. Oh, beautiful. Sam Hughes, not the best, but I think I can also flex in Willison or Henry if needed. With Murray and Haas scoring me 60 points a game, I don't need a superstar. Like if Hughes or Henry or Willison can give me 25, 30, I'll take that. And then they'll slowly increase their price and, it'll work for me. Edges, Piokora and Salmon. I think Salmon, he's pretty solid. Like I think if he gets 50 minutes a lock, he could be a 35, 40 guy. And then Piokora, if he gets 80 minutes on the edge, he's probably a 40 plus guy. So edge is probably the spot where I'm not the best in. There's no guns there, but no mid ranges. They should do their job. Halves, look, I've got the best halves in the game. I've got Hines, Cleary, banking on 75 from each of them any given week, maybe more. I like Hines to start just because Cleary has started a bit slower the last couple of years, and even the World Club Challenge, he started a 45 odd point performance with a try, whereas Hines has shown that he can come out of the blocks pretty hot. But Hines is also more of a pod. I mean, if you look at the ownership, Hines is 16% and Cleary is 51%. So happy to take a risk. I'll probably go Hines, and then my centers. Centers are always there. I think with Bailey Simonson there, I think I'm not going to go Simonson there in reality. But, you've got one guy who's got pretty good job securing a good team, who's a pretty reliable scorer. You've got Ben Trebojevic, who at least for a week or two while Schuster's out should be pretty decent. And then Ethan Strange will probably get the 6th spot. I think, look, he'll be pretty good, to be honest. I think playing as a 6, he'll get pretty good work rate. He should be a safe 25 guy. In my head, I always like cheap centers who can just give me 20. So I'm probably going to scrap Simonson and just punt on Strange, Trebojevic, and have a backup center who's also like that, like a Talau or a Kotric, because I don't really want to invest money in centers. They're too volatile anyway. And then my fullbacks like Pappenhausen, obviously reliable. If he gets injured, touch wood, he doesn't. Hope he has a lovely season, full of points, full of tries, assists. It's not against Para. Hope he stays injury free. But look, at 500k, if anything were to happen, I think you can trade him out if you really need to anyone up or above. And then Rapana, look, he's not the best. I think I'm not going to have Rapana as well, but I've just placeholdered him. He could be decent at fullback if he gets the 45, 50 points. And, I probably won't get him, but he's just a placeholder. And then Keeney has the bye week too, but if he gets 2 or 3 games, gets 30, it'll make me 50 to 100k, and then I can trade him out when Jaden Campbell's back. And then in terms of bench, we spoke on last week, I think Hutchison and Flanagan will just be solid. I think Hutch could be a 40, 45 guy, Flanagan 30, 35. Liam Henry I like because he's got such a high work rate. I think he averaged 65 in reserves. If he gets 30 minutes, he'll average 30, 35 points. He only got 20 on the World Club Challenge, but I'm hoping in a lot of games where Panthers blow out their opponents, they'll just give him more time. Willison, we've hyped up. Kotric, he looked okay in the last trial. He could, has some tackle busting potential. And then Tommy Talau. What more needs to be said? But anyway, that's how I always build teams. Like I said at the start, I've kind of experimented, doing other styles, but I always find that this style works the best for me. I'm a big fan of this strategy because you can come out of the blocks real hot and you can make a lot of money real quickly if you pick the right cows. But if you also pick the wrong cows and you're relying on guys, and for example, you've got Keeney in your starting fullback and he gives you a -2, then what can you do, right? You live and die by the sword. But like I said, out of the 10 years or so I've been playing, I've used this strategy 6 or 7 times. And I've always been in the top 1,000. I think last year was my worst finish at about 500. I think 3 or 4 times I've been in the top 50, top 100 using this strategy. And then, 3 or 4 years I kind of tried to overcomplicate it. I'd set up spreadsheets. It's the investment banker in me. I tried to do some mad math, points per dollar, building a forecast or financial model. It just didn't work. It's not that complicated, guys. Just, if you think they're in for a big season, do that. I think Longy will also record a video on his strategy. He's a bit different to me. He kind of more picks guys he thinks could take the step up, guys who might have a hotter run of form or guys who have easier draws, whereas I'm kind of just good or cheap, nothing in between. If you look at my team, how many guys have I got between 400 and 750K? I've got Simonson 1, Rapana 2, Pap 3, and Lussick 4. 4 out of my 21 are mid-ranges. I've seen a lot of teams with like 10 plus. So anyway, thanks again for listening, guys. Leave your comments or questions below, and stay tuned for more content. And yeah, team lists around the corner. It's going to be good. Take care.